So there are actually a lot of people been talking about this subclass 4 H2 visas, the core skill pathway, but how about DAMA visa? What it is, like everyone been talking about it, you hear it here and there, and people say, oh yeah, you know, staying in Sydney is hopeless and they might as well just move to regional area, get a DAMA visa. What's a DAMA visa though? So let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Johnny, I'm a migration lawyer in Sydney and I post daily content on TikTok, Instagram and YouTube Shorts to help you to get PR faster. So DAMA visa is one of the subclass on the subclass 482 visa. So you know there's a core skill pathway, there's a special skill pathway, and DAMA visa is the labor agreement stream. Under there, that's called DAMA. What it is, it provides a range of concessions to different occupations. There are occupations that couldn't otherwise be sponsored. They could be sponsored through the 482 DAMA stream. Like for example, truck drivers, even diving instructors and baristas. All of these could potentially be sponsored through labor agreement stream or the DAMA visa. So the DAMA visa is a range of different agreements or instruments that's signed between the local council with the federal government. For example, like sometimes even state government could enter into such agreements with the federal government. Like the South Australian government, they have SA DAMA, the Northern Territory government have the NT DAMA, WA government, you name it, WA DAMA. And also smaller councils like regions, for example, Orana regions, they have Orana DAMA area, and then Goulburn Valley in Victoria, they have Goulburn Valley. So all these things, you name it. And each DAMA regions, they have their own rules. For example, for truck driver, and if you want to sponsor them, for some DAMA visa, probably you don't need a skill assessment, but for some you will need it. And they have really rigorous requirement in order to get through to a particular set of DAMA visa. So as you know, for 482 visas, you don't need skill assessment unless it's mandatory. But for DAMA visa, there are a lot of occupations that may require skill assessment. That probably adds another layer of work experience. Like for example, for a standard 482 visa, you need 1 year work experience. But if you have to get a skill assessment for truck driver, say in Goulburn Valley, you need to have 3 years work experience working as a truck driver. So that's more like an additional set of requirements on top of the federal requirement, which is 1 year for 482 visa. So that's something that you would also need to pay attention to so that you understand what's going on with it. However, when it comes to DAMA visa, that also comes with a lot of perks. Yeah, you got to do skill assessment, but guys, like you couldn't otherwise be sponsored unless you go for DAMA, so you can't really complain. There are some concessions that you can use. Age concessions that allow the employer to give you a PR pathway until you're 55. English concessions for lower English requirement. There's also TISMIT requirement because currently it's 73,150, and for regional area, it's a bit harder to pay that requirement because coming up on the 1st of July 2025, it's going up to 76,515. So not a lot of employers are willing to pay it, so they apply to have a salary concession. That means the employer can sponsor you with 10% less. You get paid less, but you get sponsorship. So, well, you get one thing and you lose some other thing. So that's one way to do it. And the process of applying for DAMA visa is fairly straightforward, but it depends on which occupations, but it depends on which regions and which DAMA visa that you're going for. For WA, it's fairly straightforward, but it takes so long to get through the WA DAMA process with its WA government. And there's some other ones that absolutely horrendous, like, not going to name those just in case they block me in the future. No, I'm joking. So when it comes to applying for a DAMA visa, it's kind of fairly straightforward, but with a twist. So of course, you need to participate into the DAMA agreement. 1, you need an employer. 2, the employer must be located in the DAMA region. Number 3, the employer will need to apply to participate in the DAMA arrangement. Different DAMA regions that have different requirements. Like for example, in Far North Queensland, you got to go through the Business Council in Far North Queensland. For WA, you got to go through the Department of Industry or something, then you apply and get through it. So those will be one of the requirements that you need to go through. Once you receive an endorsement from that organization, like for example, WA government, you can then apply to get the labor agreement signed. Once you get the endorsement, then you can move on and work on the nomination, and then you can officially nominate your employee to participate in the DAMA visa program. So once the nomination has been approved by the Department of Home Affairs in Canberra, then yes, your employee can submit the visa to apply for the 482 Skills in Demand visa labor agreement through the DAMA visa. I hope it helps. If this episode intends to give you a rough idea on what kind of things that you got to do, and what are the tips and tricks and process. So if you like this episode, if you like this content, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on all my video in the future, and hit the like, share with these friends. And if you've got a question, put it in the comment section. That's the end of this episode. I'll see you in the next one.